Yo, yo, what is up? Ori, welcome to week two. We survived despite our best efforts not to do so. Week one, you excited to get right back after it?
Easy GM. Yeah, a slate has never been more clear to me. Let's forget about week one and let's cash some tickets today.
Special guest. Oh, no, I won't say that. I won't highlight that. Nez, GM, Dosh, Josh, Mr.
GM.
Heat, TD, Frankie. Let's Galaxy brain some winners. So this is a slate where week two, I mean, you've probably heard this if you've consumed any content whatsoever. This is the like overreaction slate. We have 1 week of fake data or maybe real data, and it's up to us to decide what matters, what doesn't, what priors are we sticking with, what priors are we throwing out the window. A lot of overreactions, and I think like there's chalk condensing on guys that a week ago we were not talking about at all. Round 18 picks, people are, Josh Kelly is going to be 40-50% owned in certain contests. And I think it's a good spot. We'll get there. I don't want to bury the lead, but if you are a Galaxy brainer, there's a lot of ways you can go with this slate, but also I think you can just play like the second tier and get away. You don't have to go too crazy because I think the field is going to be pretty nutty this week.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's getting crazy.
Yep. All right. So let's start a quarterback. We'll do a quick positional breakdown for anyone who's new here. But Josh Allen looks like to be, the best projected on the slate, and a pretty affordable price of 7,900 in a good matchup. He's going to be, I think, the cash game quarterback. Like for a number of reasons. A, I think like you can afford it pretty easily, and B, it's a good spot. C, the cheap guys are not as clear as they were last week. You might argue with me on, how good Anthony Richardson's spot was last week, but I think the cheap guys are a little more expensive than last week, and no one is jumping off the page. So I think Josh Allen is going to be the cash game, and I think like GPP, like it stacks pretty easily. So just real quick, like thoughts on like how good do you feel about Josh Allen, like safety and also ceiling, and then talk about like the cheaper guys and pivots.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of safety, like if you watch any content this week, like they're all circling around Josh Allen. I don't think there's any arguments between the content providers. Like he's clearly going to be the highest owned dude. And I think it's a pretty good spot. I mean, it makes sense. He's under 8K. You can afford stuff. There's value. In terms of like a big ceiling performance week, like I'm not on the Josh Allen train this week. Like I'm not going to be playing him in GPPs, but
Yeah.
he's definitely the cash quarterback. I don't think you want to roll out there with anyone else. I mean, there's other guys you could make an argument for, like Justin Herbert, I think is one that comes to mind for me, but
Yeah.
I think you want to go with Josh Allen.
Tig GM, I don't know who you are, Mr. Anomalies, but thank you for tuning in week after week. Stafford is the Mac Jones play. This is an interesting, so we're off the wall, but I've been messing around with SaberSim and looking at some of their content. And I'm getting a lot of like, bad QB naked, like not naked, the opposite of naked, like extremely clothed with like 3 stack partners, 4 stack partners. And then in their week 1 review, a lot of like sharp players. Maybe not necessarily Ricky D, but sharp players that they were looking at, like the Chipotle Bros, et cetera, were playing a lot of like these 5K bad quarterbacks with like 3 guys. So TD is trying to find who is in last week. Mac Jones with Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry really did a lot for you. 4 minutes into the show. Yeah. Anyway, so point being, like, yeah, you can avoid Josh Allen, and like a lot of sharp GPP players are playing cheaper quarterbacks and like overstacks, and it's just not something that I'm super into. But I want to open my mind to it, Riley GM. But that aside, yeah, Herbert, like the Titans, definitely pass funnel. He's not, and like he's not getting a lot of ownership. Nobody really is outside of Josh Allen. It looks like Lawrence in like higher stakes, but I'm not even buying that. You could basically play any quarterback you want. Last week was Baker week, I think. Talking a lot, but all right. So this is 6K range: Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, AR, I'll throw Brock Purdy and Jared Goff into that mix. So like of these guys here in bold, like you have a favorite one or two, or any ones that you hate here besides Anthony Richardson? Like they all project pretty similarly within, a point or two.
I really like Daniel Jones. I like Dimes. I
Yeah.
like Vanilla Vic. I think this is a great spot. I'm going to play a lot, and he's in my bigger. When I say bigger, it's very small, but my larger single entry. I have two of them. He's one of the quarterbacks. I'm also getting a bit of Geno Smith, though I don't have a whole lot of conviction in that. I'm not so sure. And then I think Brock Purdy lineups are fun.
Yep.
I'm not going to play AR, not because I hate his guts, but I do respect John Harbaugh's opinion about Houston's defense. And I do think that AR is not the guy that's going to go throw for 225 yards again. He's still going to get his floor points and stuff. I
Yeah.
see less of a ceiling this week than last week. And then Goff, my concern with Goff is I don't know. I think the Lions really want to establish it. I think it's pretty high T over there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Goff needs a double stack, and he needs receivers to catch touchdowns to get there.
yeah.
And I feel like Monty and Gibbs can grind on the ground. I don't like him in a ceiling spot. And I get they played a year ago for a 100-point game, but
yeah.
it's 2023 now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's probably why you have to show up in cash with Josh Allen, just because like all of these guys are just like also similar. It's hard to see any of them separating, and you can afford, because like we'll get to running back. We'll talk about these guys more in like the game situations, but at running back, obviously Josh Kelly, 31% in like the big GPPs and pushing 50% in the in the smaller fields. Wow. So yeah, if you go and AJ Dillon is one that I'm trying to wrap my head around. It looks like, you have to show up in cash with Josh Kelly and AJ Dillon. Who would have thought, where it's September, it's only September. It's not even like the end of the year, zero RB stuff. It's already starting to come to fruition. But yeah, thoughts real quick on, the two chalkiest guys, Josh Kelly and AJ Dillon.
Yeah. So Josh Kelly is definitely your cash running back. Like if you only got one, it would be Josh Kelly.
Yeah, he's the free square.
AJ Dillon for me, it's just like Raheem Mostert last week. Like he's just really bad chalk. I get that if he's going to be owned and you're in cash, you got to play him. But like, I don't know. When's the last time we saw AJ Dillon do like anything? Like, and I get Aaron Jones is out, but Aaron Jones has been out before, and like I'm not so sure that his role becomes this alpha. I don't know. I think people are all expecting major usage, and that might be the case, but I'm not sure he can do anything with major usage, especially against Falcons.
He's not. Yeah, I mean, he's not shown like the huge efficiency. It's just the role, and if he has, the goal line usage, and that they are on the goal line a couple of times. So I'm trying to think of like how often in a GPP, how often is AJ Dillon burying you? Like is 100 yards and a touchdown and like whatever he gets receiving, let's say, 5-6 receiving points. It's not really a burial. So he needs 2 touchdowns to bury you. Does he get 2 touchdowns often enough? So yeah, AJ Dillon, he's not shown hyper efficiency. He, if anything, and like, maybe I'm just painting a story here that confirms my priors. And I do actually like AJ Dillon. He does better as like he comes in the third quarter, fourth quarter while defense is broken down.
Right.
It's early September, and if you're just showing up and AJ Dillon is getting all of the touches, I don't know that that's as scary. So I'm not afraid to fade AJ Dillon.
Let me shout out TD real quick. AJ Dillon has 35 carries for 148 yards in 4 games without Aaron Jones in his career. And that's exactly what my brain tells me is the case. And it's, for my money, if I was a cash player, this is a spot
like 2.
This is a spot where I don't worry about the ownership, and I IKB and I go with, Rashad White or Kenneth Walker, both work. And
yeah, the one thing that I will keep in mind, like even though AJ Dillon is a large running back, like it's the 6 catches for 44 yards. It's not a big enough sample to feel super comfortable about, but I think you can definitely get away with the fade there. I don't do the coffee pours, but I've got an empty cup here. All right, so
Cheers, Philly.
that's yeah. So we'll go up to the high tier. Can Derrick Henry speed up the Chargers game? So yeah, there's a bunch like it's similar to last week where I don't remember who they were, but like a lot of the running back plays were in that 5K range, and everyone above that was invisible. Same. It's the same story again here. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry are getting 10, 11, 15% ownership. They're all in pretty decent spots. Maybe not Josh Jacobs, but they're like Josh Jacobs has like a sick role. This whole tier of like the 7Ks and even McCaffrey, I don't think is going to be super high owned, but because everyone is building Josh Kelly and then, Rashad White, Montgomery, AJ Dillon types, even Ken Walker, who I like to talk about. This 7K running back is a really interesting way to flip the build because everyone's playing, receivers at this price. So it's Derrick Henry versus Keenan Allen, or with, but yeah. Thoughts on Derrick Henry and Pollard and Jacobs?
Yeah, I'm not getting too much Jacobs or Pollard. I think that Pollard's just in a tough spot. I know that the Jets, they say the secondary is the better part of their defense, but their defensive line is not that bad either. I think that they were allowing James Cook to work on the ground because that's just bend but don't break kind of a thing. But with Pollard, they're not going to afford him that same luxury. I think the Jets come to play. I don't like Pollard. Jacobs, he missed all of camp. He's still, he's in the Joe Burrow category for me where I'm not ready for ceiling games for him yet. So I'm finding myself getting some Henry. I like some Henry, and I'm definitely finding my way up to CMC in some spots. Like his usage was just insane. It doesn't even make sense compared to the past, how little they used Elijah Mitchell. And maybe that will change. Maybe that will change. But until it does, I've got to fire him up when he's lower owned. And then, we can talk about my favorite running back of the week. One of them, which is your guy, Saquon Barkley, in a smash spot, in a big bounce back. And nobody wants to pay $8,000 for a running back. It's like a total dead zone.
Yep. Yeah, Arizona. I mean, it's not a super attractive game environment. Arizona, I don't think is playing super fast with Josh Dobbs, and no one is excited to play Giants. And 4% in high stakes is definitely and it's a 4:00 game. So I don't want to be like a broken record here, but like if you start off dead, you can switch to Saquon if you still have the roster spot available. It's unfortunate that Josh Kelly is an early game, but if Josh Kelly, if you play Josh Kelly and he goes out there and gets you 6 points, 8 points, you got to start moving things around. I do like Ken Walker a lot at single digit or like 10% owned as well. But yeah, in GPPs, like I think I'd so much rather play Montgomery. Even Rashad White had like a insanely good role. He is bad, no question about it. But I hate to. Hopefully, this is not breaking news for you, but the Bears are pretty freaking bad. So I think Rashad White can get there, and he's going to come in pretty low owned because of the AJ Dillon thing.
Yeah. And I would give one more shout out to a guy that I'm getting a bunch of that people aren't going to like, especially with Shefty's news. But Dame Pierce is at 5,600.
It's cheap.
I know 4 of his offensive line are missing. Yeah, I mean, he got 61% of the rushing attempts last week, which that's basically what we expect, for most running backs. And we're talking about 50s. But I mean, he ran 21 routes and like 14% targets per route share. Like, there is a chance that, Indy stinks. Baltimore was good last week. And, the path is to run him on the ground and protect CJ Stroud while 4 offensive linemen are out. And, when he gets the ball more, he's one of those backs that, he's like a young King Henry, right? Like if you can get him into the fourth quarter with the defense, kind of not able to pin their ears back, and he can grind. Like he's a grinder.
Yeah. I do, before we move off the wall and flip the build type stuff, Jerick McKinnon and Zach Moss both are cheaper than Josh Kelly, obviously project worse. There's going to have to be, something's going to have to break their way, but, CEH is out, like Kelsey back, but McKinnon, is like their goal line back and their third down back. So I really like, in stacks or even just as like a pivot to get access to this game. I think McKinnon and then Zach Moss at 4,700. I believe he was inactive last week. He's active this week. Deion Jackson had one of the worst games. Nate, shout out to Nate. I think we might have Deion Jackson on a share team or something. Or no, we don't have Zach Moss, but like Deion Jackson, I don't know. I feel like I'm making it up, but he had like 18 carries for 10 yards and lost 2 fumbles. It's like it's not too far from that. It was like just so bad. And again, like this Houston defense might not be what we meme them to be, but it could be a pretty decent matchup. And it's one of those things where like there's fragility to this. Like like Moss projected for 9 and Deion Jackson projected for 8. If what's his name, Steichen just like wakes up and decides like Deion Jackson, you're done. Like this is Zach Moss, like, and he just gets all of that work, then you're looking at, he can compete with a Josh Kelly, and that's all you're really asking for at 1% owned.
Well, I'll tell you what else I'm asking for is a little bit of Zach Moss across from Tank Dell and a little mini stack. And
there you
look
go.
At this. Look at the shiny toys you can purchase then.
Yeah, we'll get there. So at receiver, a lot more ownership here in the like all of the best projected like points per dollar receivers are actually all high priced, which is interesting. Combination. Ooh, Dante Foreman expected to be a healthy scratch today. I guess we probably could have seen that coming pre-season. That's interesting because Roschon Johnson not projected well. We'll see.
Yeah, but do we IKB that? I mean, that's
yeah. I think you can.
That's a lot of work. That's 30% of the fucking work.
Yeah, we can do that
because they did a 3-headed monster.
Yeah. Adams, Ridley, Chase, Keenan, Diggs are the 5 highest like weighted average points per dollar. Could you pick your favorite 2 of this bunch? Because I think in cash you can afford your way to get to. You just have to play with defense and whatever to get there. If you had to show up with 2 of these guys, like who do you feel best about?
If I had to show up with 2 of these guys, I'm going with Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, no,
no doubt about it. Not even close.
I agree. I think there's a case for Ridley, as well, just a game environment, and like I'm willing to admit that I was not. I just didn't think that he'd show up and be the alpha week 1, and he jammed it. So yeah, and I think Keenan Allen. The one interesting thing, like Jam pointed this out because he like never plays Keenan Allen, and then I think Keenan Allen was the first person he mentioned on his player grid. Is like, what's his name? The Kellen Moore was actually playing Keenan Allen out wide a bit, so that changes the thesis. I don't know how much Keenan Allen can win out wide. I'm not going to get into like my hand too far into the dirt, except to say Keenan Allen might have more upside in a Kellen Moore offense than he did, in the past. And then add on top of that, that Austin Eckler's out, siphoning away 5, 6, up to 8 targets in a similar area of the field that Keenan Allen operates.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen's upside, is the same as it was 5 years ago. It's because he's one of the very few. The other one is the guy we like here, who literally have 20 target upside. Like,
yeah.
There is a world where there's 0 ADOT. He's in that Cup Devontae Adams territory where that could happen.
Yep. And then Debo, like I'm seeing some ownership. I don't know. I think like Debo's 5,600, Ayuk is 5,800, and people just saw Ayuk score twice last week. So I don't know. We'll see how that comes in. Puka Nacua was not listed in Schefter's like injury bomb, so I'm assuming that he's going to play.
McVay said he's going to play 2 days ago, so for sure Puka's in.
Yeah. So I like both Puka and Debo. I think like their ownership is like slightly elevated, but fine. Anything you like here in that mid or cheaper tier that jumps out to you?
Yeah, I'm playing a bunch of Debo. I'm IKBing the ownership because it's a tale as old as time the last few years about week 2 being the overreaction week, and everyone says we're not going to overreact, and then they overreact, and stuff like that. Like, there's just no way where the whole field is going to be all over Debo over Ayuk after what happened last week. Now, I get it. High stakes guys are sharper. That could be the case in high stakes because those guys
Yeah.
trying to not overreact as much as large field. But I'm finding myself getting quite a bit of Debo. I mean, 5,600 for Debo.
Yeah.
I
Again,
mean,
if you
he
want to
still
go
got some
best
rushes
ball,
last week.
yeah.
It's a divisional
You're welcome.
matchup. He's smashed them before. Like, let's go.
Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say like Debo has a good history against the Rams. I don't know if it's like scheme, if Rams run zone and Debo runs in in the middle of zones and things like that. Whereas Ayuk tends to win man to man, man on man coverage because he's a really good tacticianer, and Debo Samuel's just get me the ball in space and I'll do the work with the ball in my hand. So yeah, and then T Higgins is so like one thing we've been talking about, like maybe not stars and scrubs, but there's a lot of guys at 7K, and we're gonna find the guys at 5K and below. T Higgins is kind of in that 6,400. I thought he end up um, getting some ownership because like he scored zero. I mean, he literally scored 0 points on 8 targets. Actually had really good usage, and I don't know if there's something to big bounce back. We've seen time and time again the narrative of like you want to feed the guy after getting zero, and like it. Who was it on Thursday night that was coming off a zero? Dallas Goedert was coming off a zero, and then the first play I believe was like a schemed little like stick route or screen to Dallas Goedert. So anyway,
Yeah.
I had T Higgins early in the week. We'll see if I end up there, but.
Yeah, I like T. I'm playing a little bit of T, but I'm just hand in the dirt. I think Joe Burrow needs another week. Just missing all of camp and stuff. Then you get this division matchup against Baltimore, which he has shredded before, and he's also looked awful before in this matchup. And I just don't know that this is the get right week.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of staying away from too much of it. I have a little bit, but
Yeah.
some of my favorites down here for cost savers is like Zay Jones, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Jahan
Yeah.
Dotson. A lot of people are
Yep.
afraid of
Oh,
Denver's alleged really bad, really good pass defense, but what they really mean is Patrick Surtain, and
yeah, he can't
I
cover two
think
guys.
Surtain
Yeah.
is going to F1,
Yep.
and
Yep.
look at
I was
Jacoby
gonna
Myers
mention that.
last week. I think Dotson's a smash here.
I was going to mention the same thing. I do have Dotson in my early builds at 4%. It's just too good to pass up there. So yeah, we'll talk more about it in the games,
Yep.
and then tight end Travis Kelce is hashtag back. Really jumping off the page. He just like so different than everything else we look at. Tight end Mark Andrews looks like he's going to be back. He actually practiced on Friday, I believe, in full. Is going to be pretty low owned. Musgrave is the guy you have to show up with in cash. But man, you could really like if you want to talk about theoretical winners, like Musgrave does have upside and like it's a dome game, blah blah. But like you show up with Musgrave at 30% projected for 9 points when there's Chig at 10%, there's Irv Smith, Zach Ertz, the name who must not be listed, Adam Trotman, like all these guys are like, yeah, I understand they're gross, but like, does it really matter at tight end? You're really going to show up with 30% own Luke Musgrave and a 40-point total?
Yeah. I'm not a Musgrave truther just yet. I get it in cash. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
got to just show up with him. But, 40
40
of his air yards are because the quarterback fumbled the football and the Bears defense is terrible and just all gave up on their pass, their route protection. He was just out there and falling over and not knowing what to do with himself. He was so long. If you take that play away, but again, his usage is good. There's no one else there. I get it,
Yeah, I mean, Ertz had a bunch of targets. If you want 10 targets for 20 yards, I think Zach Ertz is a pretty good source of that. And then really interesting way, because I think people are going to go up. Obviously, like Kelce Musgrave combined ownership is going to be 50% in higher stakes, and even in small fields, like I guess it gets more spread. Dalton Kincaid actually is getting some juice, but like Kittle and Waller here at 5,300, 5,500 are just like at 1%. Like I don't care if they're playing like the Monstars or like the like whoever. Like you have to show up. I don't know if you're MMEing like at least 5% of both of them in stacks, not in stacks. Like these are guys that are going to have multiple 20+ point weeks that I don't think guys like Irv Smith, even Musgrave, have access to that kind of ceiling anywhere close at this like. So
yeah, I completely agree. Waller is my favorite tight end of the week. I have 3 tight ends that I'm playing, basically, period, outside of a couple of stacks. But I love Chig here at 3,300 after he bombed last week. I think that the field is not going to play him, and I think Tanny can't play worse. And then Dawson Knox's usage was still great at the tight end position. I'm going to be playing some Dawson Knox and Darren Waller. Those 3.
Hold on, I got a new projection run. So I'm gonna just update for that.
Live updates. Let's go.
So yeah, one thing. So before we go to the games, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, like both had pretty good usage. Like Kincaid definitely, like they're both out there. Kincaid, I think, definitely has higher upside. He's going to be twice as owned, and Dawson Knox is cheaper. So if you want to be a little different in your Buffalo stacks, you can play Dawson Knox. I don't know if you want to show up maybe with both of them, and then defense, just real quick, like there's not the last week's Washington against the Cardinals like jump off the page. Like Tampa apparently is grading out well against the Bears. I think defense is just like play whoever fits. No one is like super high chalk that you have to be like, oh, I have to blind fade this 40% mispriced defense. I think everyone, like, you go off the wall with like the Titans against the Chargers. They're super cheap. The Raiders at 2,200 are the cheapest defense, and they're playing against, turnover prone Josh Allen. So it does some stuff and paying up to be contrarian with Dallas. I think you probably want to tell me to scroll down and take a look at the Jets here. Anything you kind of like with defense or?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Jets this week, the field is just making a mistake. Like Dak is still Dak. And the Jets defense is really good, and they're going to rally around, A-Rod going down. They're a team that still believes they're like a Super Bowl team. And, again,
Dak and Aaron Rodgers will be back for the playoffs.
2,700 for the Jets defense, and no one's going to play them? Are you kidding me? I'm playing Jets and Ravens almost completely across the board, aside from I'm doing a little pay up to be contrarian. A little bit of Cowboys and a little bit of Texans.
Yeah. Speaking of Texans, the opposite side, Colts are interesting against a banged up Stroud. So Stroud himself, I don't know if he missed practice or was just like listed, questionable. He will play, but literally 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen are out, including Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, who's a stud. So Colts at 3,400 is not something you really feel good about. But interestingly enough, the Texans dropped back to pass a pretty decent amount and played fairly fast week 1. So and it's in the dome. So if you tell me that week 2 CJ Stroud is missing practices and missing 4 of his offensive linemen, I think it's fine. But that just speaks to like, it's kind of cowardly. I don't have a take at defense. Like, I'm going to make a lineup that I like. And if I have 3,400, I'll play the Colts. If I have 2,900, I'm fine with the like, I don't care at defense. I'll just play whoever's there.
That's the way it should be.
Jake Ferguson, we'll talk about it, but Jake Ferguson had a bunch of targets, especially near the goal line. So we'll see how that goes. So ready to talk some games?
Yeah.
Let's start off Chargers at Tennessee, 45.5 point total. Chargers are 2.5 point favorites. Obviously, we've talked Josh Kelly, Keenan Allen is going to be owned. I don't know about this Mike Williams thing. I think Mike Williams is, you might be able to sneak Mike Williams by people.
I think you can.
And that, so yeah, what do you like here? Do you like playing? So one of the first things that I built was Josh Kelly with Keenan Allen. And I have like Derrick Henry in that. I kind of like, I think that they can both get there, especially at their prices. But anything you like here in this game, obviously cognizant of how chalky Josh Kelly's going to be.
Yeah. This is, I think, the second highest game I'm playing, especially with minis. The Keenan Allen Chig mini, I'm playing so much of that. It's crazy. I'm also mixing in some Keenan with Derrick Henry. I like Herbert stacks. When I double stack them, it's always got Keenan Allen in it. And then honestly, I'm doing a little bit of Parham just to be different. And then the rest of the lineup has some chalk stuff that I can use, but I'm not doing the Josh Kelly thing with Herbert. That is.
Yeah.
I do have Josh Kelly as a cheap running back in non-Herbert stacks, but I like the game a lot, and I'm very excited for Chig and Keenan specifically.
I don't know if this is a bullish or bearish that Pump Skull infamously an infamous fader of Derrick Henry is excited about Derrick Henry. Yeah, I mean the Chargers defense like doesn't care to stop the run. I think that like Brandon Staley is like a sharp or fake sharp guy, and he's like whatever, if you want to run on me, great. Like I'll just play soft and protect against the pass, of which there is not really any. Even though DeAndre Hopkins had like insane usage.
Yeah,
I don't know that I can go there. It's a good play on paper for sure against in a pretty good total at 3%, and people are going to be scared of him. I think Hopkins is Hopkins. If I was on
yeah.
a
Early
meeting, I
in
would
the
play
week, I loved Hopkins, but him not practicing all week with an ankle and just his age and how bad they are, I'm worried about his commit. He may just say I'm done for today at some point. Like I don't
Mm,
know. I just have no faith in him. Playing 100% of the snaps and being a big dog.
yeah, yeah. So I am going to play a bunch of Henry. With Kelly, without Kelly, with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams. That's where I'm at. Green Bay and Atlanta, 40-point total here. Atlanta 2-point favorites at home in the dome. AJ Dillon is going to be owned. Like, I wonder how much Leone is going to have to pump up his projections, because like I just reran the optimals. He's still not in the optimal. So again, I don't know if people are forcing it a little bit with AJ Dillon, some, false sense of certainty there. And obviously Musgrave, we talked about. Christian Watson is going to be out. Jaden Reed, 3,400.
Yeah, I'm not getting there this week. I'm just not. I think the Atlanta defense is better than people think. Combined with the script, which is to slow the game down and run 20 plays for the entire game if possible. And I just don't like the prospects of anything on the Packers really being able to hit a ceiling in this game. I think Falcons running backs are alive to hit a ceiling. I mean, if you liked Rojo last week against the Packers defense, wait till you get a load of Bijan. He's another back that's going to catch the ball out of the backfield and has a lot of zip, a lot of pop. I mean, the Packers didn't really have an answer for Rojo, and I'm very excited to see both Bijan. Originally, I was going to play a bunch of Algier because I think his role and his usage is very real. I still think that, but I want to watch one game of Cordarrelle being active just to see how much does he take away from who. You know what I mean? So I'm getting more Bijan than Algier, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to show up with Musgrave in cash. Probably not playing.
Quiet down, Tim. Quiet down.
GBP. But I do like Jaden Reed here. I'm not really super scared. Like 3,400, I think. People aren't really going down there. So Indianapolis at Houston, 39.5. Like we have two. I wonder what Cardi is thinking about these two games at like super low totals, but like both in the domes. Nobody here is going to be getting owned. Anthony Richardson is fairly fine play at ownership. I don't know if you play him naked or with Pittman, like you get really good ownership at anyone you want in this game. And you like the Zach Moss, Tank Dell, and then you can play whoever you want. Mini, is that pretty much it for you in this game?
Yeah, I do have quite a bit of Dame Pierce. I see a different script this week, especially with those linemen out. I see a bigger dose of Dame. He is participating in the passing game, and I like pairing him with his defense. And just Indy stinks. I mean, their defense is bad.
Yeah, Houston's 3,600. Yeah,
it looks like Cardi likes Pittman, but doesn't really like the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty much off of this game. I'm not really super into Tank Dell until we get like another injury or something. There was some coach speak around Tank Dell. I don't know. I'm going to have to pay and see it first, I think. I'm not scared, but I do like Zach Moss quite a lot. And again, this is what I was talking about before. He's projected for 9. Dion's for 8. Like, if you take Dion down to 2, I'm not saying that Zach Moss goes up to, 15, but I think, this is getting.
I think that's a great thesis.
Yeah, it's not
a really good
like
thesis
50, 60, 40, but I think if Zach Moss gets 80% of the work, I think that could be pretty juicy here. Seattle, Detroit, 47.5, second highest on the slate. For some reason, this is the third year in a row that these two teams are playing, and the first one resulted in, the infamous Amon-Ra Rashad Penny last year. Hoop won a million playing 12 guys from this game. The characters are different, but are they? Question mark. What are your thoughts here now they're playing this game in Coors Field?
Yeah, I mean, my very, very way too early look at the week, I was going to fire up some big Seattle, Detroit game stack stuff. But as the week has kind of gone on, I've started to tell myself stories that make me not like this game as much in terms of the whole game. I will say I'm playing a ton of DK Metcalf, Jamar Gibbs minis. It's a price point that's kind of uncomfortable for a mini, and there's some other things that allow you to do that, and I really like it. If Man Campbell's a man of his word and Gibbs gets more work and he doesn't fall down this week, he's got a lot of spark, and Seattle's defense did not look very good. I mean, is the Rams offense really good or is Seattle defense really bad? I'm pretty sure it's a combination of both. And, we speculated all offseason, what if Geno is Geno? Like, I'm concerned about Seattle's pass offense being able to go nuclear, and I'm concerned with the Detroit offense not wanting to go high T grind the game with Montgomery and Gibbs, and then just get ARSB underneath and do his little slant boy stuff. And those prospects don't look for a big ceiling game, in my opinion.
Yeah, like just to play the counter at I mean, to your point about DK Metcalf at 7K, he's just invisible because everyone is clicking Keenan at 71, Ridley at 72, Adams at 76. That's why, like, Amon-Ra at 78, I think it's a good spot. Obviously, not pace up, but it's a high total in the dome. But at 7,800, like, no one is clicking him over Devontae at 76, Jamar Chase at 70. Like, so he's got coverage, right? He's not going to get super steamed because, like, everyone in this game is a price pivot, right? Even Montgomery is a price pivot off of AJ Dillon. Kenneth Walker is a price pivot off of Dave Montgomery. Right. So yeah, I think you can play this game, and I think certain combinations are going to be too low owned. I'm not as excited as I thought it might be for this game, but I think that's kind of the market sentiment. I really like Kenneth Walker. I think Lockett at 2%, DK Metcalf at 3% are great plays. It makes me just want to stack the Geno side, a little Geno double with Amon-Ra, and Montgomery and Gibbs, and you could easily play 5 guys from this game, and it can get there.
And people might ask, Tyler Lockett, DK, like, they're kind of interchangeable. 1 week it's one week it's the other. But in my head, I'm telling myself a story that Geno is not that great of a quarterback, and the reason I really like DK Metcalf, even if Geno's not that great a quarterback, is because he's a yak guy. Like, he's the guy that can turn 6-yard catches into a touchdown. Sure. He can house anything on the field. And Tyler Lockett can't get out of his own way. When he catches the ball, that's where it stops.
Yeah, but at 2%, 6,100, I think Tyler Lockett is pretty fine. Josh Reynolds, at one point in the week, I was like not excited, but like, Josh Reynolds, what seemed like Marvin Jones had a really bad week. I think he might be playable in Millie type stuff. And Laporta is pretty low owned, but yeah, not super. There's not a lot of certainty in this game, which is why I think it's going to be lower owned. The Seattle side is pretty clean. And I do like Ken Walker a lot.
Yeah.
His role, like he gave up nothing. What's that?
I didn't want to fire up the boys, but I got a little bit of Marv. All
right. Speaking of firing up the boys, we got Chicago going to Tampa Bay. Got Rojo up to 6 points projected now. I had some Khalil Herbert rush yard overs earlier in the week that probably got good closing line value. Shout out to me there.
Maker Sean Corner's down bad though. Herbie under 11.5 carries got buried.
Yeah, it's not gonna age well. But yeah, this game is not going to be owned at all. I don't know how this game goes nuclear, but like this game could concentrate where like Justin Fields at 2.5%. It's the same thing as like the Kittle Waller thing. A lot of times you're going to look stupid because it's overpriced, but 2, 3, 4 times a year, it's just going to be great. And at 2.5%, you have to click it. And DJ Moore at 1%. Again, like it looked really bad last week. And I don't think Tampa's like a great matchup for it, but I do like in like my top 5 favorite builds, like it is DJ Moore and Justin Fields at this ownership.
Yeah. We didn't talk about DJ Moore receivers before because you didn't scroll 5 pages.
Yeah.
But DJ Moore, my friend, is in a smash spot. The cornerback who's going to guard DJ Moore, who was going to guard DJ Moore, is out. Their secondary is not that great. The Bucks like to do some man stuff. They like to do some blitz stuff. And while you may say, "Oh, Justin Fields stinks," and you're probably right, he does have more success when you try and blitz and do man stuff and things like that. DJ Moore knows Tampa Bay. He knows Tampa's defense, and I look. And then when you look at the press conference, we're getting too hand in the dirt here, but I heard everything I needed to hear from the press conferences this week. DJ Moore is getting the ball this week. This is going to be a major, major overcorrection. The offensive coordinator basically said, "Yeah, I made some mistakes, but also Justin Fields stunk." And Justin Fields himself said, basically, "I stunk. I didn't give my guys a chance. I played too conservative." And I think they're going to absolutely air it out this week. And then on the other side, Kyler Gordon is the Bears' best corner, and he's out.
Yeah.
So, Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, I don't know which one. I don't think Baker can carry both, and that's why I'm not going to play Baker stacks. I just don't see that world happening. But when you get whichever one of those guys goes off, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. What's his name? Johnson. What's his name? No. James Johnson. Who's your healthy corner?
Jalen Johnson. He's a very good corner. He's a shutdown corner.
So there's him, and then it literally guys off the street. So yeah, I do like. I don't know, like for Fields and DJ Moore to get there. I don't think you need a Tampa Bay bring back, but I think that they're low enough owned and in good enough spots that you can do it. And I actually kind of like Rachaad White. I actually might just prefer Rachaad White in those builds over necessarily picking Godwin versus Evans, but I think you can go either way and be fine there. Vegas at Buffalo, 47-point total here. Buffalo, obviously, everyone is ignoring last week, and they're in a smash spot. Stephon Diggs is going to be pretty owned. Davante Adams is going to be very chalky. And then, every other way to play this game is, you kind of have a lane to yourself. You're probably not into the Josh Allen, Diggs, Adams, but like, do you have other ways you like to build this game?
Yeah, so I like Allen Diggs, like especially after what worked last week. I think Stephon Diggs has a special relationship with Josh, where he can, when he's being a grown up, he can talk to Josh, say, "Look, calm down, stop being stupid, and throw me the ball." And then Josh does that for like 7 plays in a row, right? Like I really like that connection, but I'm team Dink in this, that I've never seen a 7,900 quarterback so unanimously declared across every content site. And I think even in large field, Josh Allen's ownership is going to be fucking through the roof. So as a tournament player, I just can't mess with that. So I think anyway, that's a long way of saying I like Allen Diggs a lot. I can't play it at this ownership, and I think this ownership it could go higher. But I will give you one little Ori special. Devontae Adams, obviously that's not an Ori special. That's 21%. But Deontay Hardy for the cheap guys, in place of a Tank Dell, in place of a Jaden Reed, in that type of spot, if you do a mini there, he only played the 15 plays last week or whatever, but like 5 of those plays are scheme touches, like directly to him, and he plays, in special teams, and he has some outs to be a weird guy in omega large field kind of stuff in a mini, in a game with a high total that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'd probably just rather play the tight ends at the same price, like even in a flex. Like I'm not like I was getting a bunch of tight end flex.
I love Knox. Just trying to help the people out with a cheap wide receiver.
My off the wall play here is Hunter Renfrow with Jacoby Myers out, and like Jimmy G is like it's the meme, like the liberal like screaming into the void meme of like, no, like Jimmy G can't possibly be this efficient again on his like, now he's playing with like Josh McDaniels and whatever else. It's no longer you know, the San Francisco offense. But yeah, Hunter Renfro taking the Jacoby role, which was very fruitful. Obviously, like Devontae Adams is getting steamed up because his target expectation goes way up. But like I think Jimmy G is just like every week going to throw to two guys, three guys. The field is telling you he's going to throw to one guy. Um, but yeah, I think Hunter Renfro at 4%, 3,900. Dude, in the large fields, I am going to show up with Jimmy G, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Renfro, and you can't talk me
I
off of that.
I have a
And
confession.
T Money's
I have a
with me.
confession. If I was more of a
T's worried.
man, I would have a lot of Renfro this week. I'm soft and I'm scared. I
Yeah,
love it, but I can't do it.
yeah. It's just a way for me to get different there. Kansas City Jacksonville 51 point total. And people are really only playing this through Kelsey and Ridley. That's what I've seen. You mentioned Zay Jones at 4,700. It's just like a lot of guys. There's just a lot of dudes, right? On Jacksonville. There's literally five skill position players that are all good fantasy football players. So how do you choose who you're playing besides Ridley? And then on the Kansas City side, we saw how awful they looked. Thursday night, they've had a lot of time to think about it. Kelsey back, and everyone like, who else are you going to click here? Who do you like outside of Ridley, Kelsey?
Well, yeah, I wish you wouldn't have said who do you like, and I wish you
If
said
you have to.
who are you gonna play,
Okay,
because
fair enough.
I'm gonna ask you a question. What if 4,600 Kadarius Toney catches the football?
Yeah. No. Yep.
I'm
100%.
playing everything that I do in this game involves that question being answered favorably for me, because I think
Yeah.
it's the only way you can get any sort of an edge on the field and stuff. I will say that a guy who I have zero of is Travis Etienne, who I was high on in the offseason and in week one. And I am very terrified that he's the guy that ends my week, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think you got to click Kadarius Toney this week. And if you're going to stack this game up, and you could do that with Kelsey. And another thing I like to do is have, Evan Engram as the tight end and skip Travis
Yeah.
Kelsey in the game stack, just to try
Yeah.
and find a way to be different.
It's the same thesis as like Kittle Waller at 4,800. It's just like a price point nobody wants, and it's going to definitely get there more than 2.6% of the time.
Yeah.
What are Tony's anytime touchdown odds? I'm curious, but yeah, like I think you could play a Mahomes, McKinnon, Tony, Kelsey, and like your average price is like pretty, like, because McKinnon and Tony are so low. The only question there is like they get there through touchdowns. I don't think Tony's getting 100 yards, but he can get 2 touchdowns. And same thing with McKinnon. Is not really a yards guy; he's more of a touchdowns guy at this point. So maybe I'll just do like a max 2 between McKinnon, Tony, Kelsey. But I think you can show up with five or even 6 guys from this game. Especially like, because as you click guys besides Kelsey and Ridley, you're gonna have no ownership there.
Yeah. I mean, the one guy in this game that I think that like I just cannot condone playing like at all is Christian Kirk.
Yeah,
I don't think the market has adjusted enough, especially in terms of price, to what his real role is now, and I don't like it.
Yeah, plus 255 and the Tony anytime. I don't know. What's the Tony 2 touchdown? We get like 15 to 1 on that or something. It's probably less. That's unbettable, but just curious if you can hit me with that. Baltimore at Cincinnati, 46 point total is actually pretty high, fourth highest on the slate. Cincinnati, slight favorite despite how bad they looked last week. Jamar Chase, isn't like I've not heard many people talking about Jamar Chase. Same thing as last week, man, where like everyone just showed up with Jamar Chase because they thought they had to, and then the slate was over and is like, did I really have to show up with Jamar Chase? And I think that this is a better matchup, obviously, than Cleveland because Baltimore for several years now, not exactly the Ravens, right? Like their secondary has been pretty weak for a number of years. I don't know how they're always hurt, but they are. So yeah, what do you like in this game? I think you can get pretty good ownership on guys outside of Chase.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't like it, but I respect and see a world where you play Lamar Manders stack in this game. Have fun with that. I'm not going to play it. I just see an ugly division battle, low scoring, slow, Burrow under siege, and there's a few spots where I played T Higgins just because of the goose egg last week, and I had $6,400, but I'm not
Yeah.
stacking this game, and I'm not. I don't like this game. I don't have too much to say. I do
Yeah.
like the Baltimore defense in this game. I know that they're banged up and stuff like
You're
that,
just going to
but
face a lot of attempts. You're going to face a
yeah,
lot of
it's going to
Burrow
be a lot of
which could be a good
attempts.
thing.
They still got 5-6 sacks last week against CJ Stroud, who's more mobile than Mr. Burrow is, and yeah, I think they can
Yeah,
get home.
22 to
It's
1
just a
and
matter of
counting.
if there's turnovers, and at 2,800 for Baltimore defense, like sign me up.
Yeah. I do like the Lamandrews calls. Zay Flowers at 5K, 15% is like a little rich for me, but they're scheming him. They're scheming him looks. We'll see if that sticks with Mark Andrews back. I have a feeling it might because, dude, like Rashad Bateman is not a full time player. Like Odell Beckham is not going to hold up. In this run game, like as this run game goes out, like I think Zay Flowers got one or two sweeps and like Zay Flowers a quick little screen or just like RPO type thing. It's just an extension of the run game. So I do think Zay
Yeah,
Flowers obviously is going to pay off over the season at 15%. Not my favorite, and I do like T Higgins and I like Irv Smith. Irv Smith as a Musgrave pivot. Mostly in stacks. Like I'm not excited to play like a naked Irv Smith, but I think Irv Smith scores a touchdown and it helps your Burrow teams quite a lot.
agreed.
39.5 point total and another dome. Funny how that works. The Giants are 4-point favorites on the road at the Cardinals. Nobody's getting owned in this game. I've heard like enough sneaky steam around Danny Dimes, but from like sharp people or like I'm not worried about it. I think you can play Danny Dimes if you want.
Yeah, I think if you were going to worry slightly about it, it would be in the very high stakes, the nosebleed section.
This is gonna be.
I don't think
8%. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because you
Yeah, no,
can't. You don't
I
have to
love
choose who to
Dimes
stack
here.
them with. Look, like
Yeah, I love Dimes, Waller, Skinnies a lot.
they're all 1%. All of his pass
Yeah.
catchers are 1%.
Well, I mean, you see a bunch of pass catchers there, but it's really only Hodgins. It's Dimes, Barkley, Hodgins, and Waller for me. The other two are not real.
It's just Waller. It's just Waller.
The question for me, let me ask you this, because you're doing this stack and I'm doing this stack. The question for me is the bring back. Like the bring back sucks.
Nothing.
Do you just not bring it back? Do you bring back Connor just because of workload, or do you bring back Hollywood? I've done a little bit of both, but I throw up every time I do it.
Yeah, no, I'm just playing Jones and Waller. If I were to go out there with Jones and like Slayton, I would put Ertz there, but I don't want to play Hollywood. I don't want to play Connor. And a conversation and thought that like, can you play Jones with Saquon? At these prices, I don't think so, because Jones is only he's gonna have to throw the ball to Saquon, which he does, but like I don't know. Like there's a lot of guys that say if you like Saquon, just play Saquon. If you like Jones, just play Jones, I think. Because like I think Danny Jones gets there rushing. So if you're saying like he throws it to Saquon, great, like then just go play a different 6K quarterback. You know what I mean?
I get you. But also I'm playing a little Dimes with Saquon.
Yeah.
You can't stop
of course. 45.5 point total. San Francisco at the Rams. Pretty big favorites for San Francisco. Rams look pretty decent, man. A lot of play volume, like Puka Nacua jumping off the page. I thought he was going to be pretty chalky. This says 17%. If I had to bet higher or lower, I would actually say lower because I don't think people are building with Puka Nacua. So yeah, anything you like in this game?
Yeah, I only have CMC and Debo coming out of this game. I believe that I used Tutu in a couple spots just as leverage and cheaper than Puka, just if something weird happens, but I don't particularly like that. If this game wasn't week 2, this could be a very different game because I think we have so many questions right now. Just, like, is Matt Stafford back? Is their offense real? Are these Puka, Tutu, Kyron Williams, are these real?
Yeah.
San Francisco just punked Pittsburgh, but how bad is Pittsburgh? And like, we have so many questions about this game, which is leading to, it not being stacked or anything like that. But this could be a very different game later in the season, depending on the answers to those questions.
Yeah. I mean, one of my current 3 builds, that I'm playing is a Purdy double. I mean, he's just like solo owned, and at that like 5,700, like you don't need 303, like 302 will do just fine. Or even 250 and 2. And again, like not that I'm playing scared, but I think Purdy has access to a ceiling, and like even his like not like his fastball is going to be very good. And I think like a Purdy changeup, he can just keep up just fine because like these weapons are just sick. And if the
Yeah.
Rams defense is if the Rams defense is what we thought it was prior to the season, then this is like a super smash spot. And the Niners are the 3rd highest team total on this slate, and their quarterback is only 4% owned. So I like, and all the guys are very affordable and not too chalky. I will play Kittle in every one of those lineups. But yeah, and I like Puka Nacua to bring back. I think 2-2 is fine. Less owned, cheaper, a little leverage play, but I do like this game quite a lot.
Yep.
Jets at Dallas. Not a whole lot interesting here. I know you're off of Pollard. You're on Jets defense. I think Pollard is fine. It's the same. It's similar. It's a running back versus receiver question for me. Where everyone is showing up with multiple 7K receivers, and can you just like flip that and play Pollard in the flex at 7,500? Like I would tell you yes. Anything you like in this game outside of the defenses?
Yeah, Jets defense. I do think one cute thing to do with the Jets defense is to run Brees Hall out there in a spot where you're trying to pay a little bit less for running back and you're trying to get no ownership. And I
Yeah,
realize that's scary with the pitch count and stuff like that. But, we just saw in an island game that he can do a lot with a
I mean
little.
he's sick. Yeah,
And there's one thing I'll say about the Dallas defense and Micah Parsons. And, if those guys get over, they're pretty high T guys. And if Hackett knows what he's doing, which I don't know if he knows what he's doing, but
yeah,
one of the things that you do to punish a very overzealous line like that is a little screen, a little weird thing to Brees. And Brees is the kind of guy that can maybe not house it. Hello, he fell down at the 5-yard line, but he can go a long ass way if you burn the defense when they're getting a little bit overzealous. And Micah and those guys can definitely do that,
yeah. No, they are running up the field, for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not like in a small in a super large field. Like maybe I think it's a little too fancy for me. I do like Jake Ferguson 3,300. Had really good usage. In a if Dallas is projected to score 3 touchdowns, I think Jake Ferguson has not that bad of odds of scoring. Like it would not surprise me if his odds of scoring a touchdown are better than like Luke Musgrave's, right? Like this Dallas offense, especially with Brandon Cooks out, there's not a lot of touchdown scores here. Like I'm not a big CD Lamb truther. And Tony Pollard had good usage, but like Jake Ferguson is probably one of their like best red zone weapons. If you would even call Jake Ferguson a weapon, let's say he's an option, not a weapon. But yeah, like I like Jake Ferguson over Musgrave just as like a direct price pivot type thing there.
Yeah.
Last game on the slate, perhaps the lowest total with Washington is at Denver. Jahan Dotson, and that's it for me here.
Yeah, I'm okay with Troutman 3K if you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want to throw away a tight end that has the same upside as like Musgrave and those kind of guys down there.
yeah,
Typically I don't do too much naked tight end stuff, so that's why I don't have actually much Troutman at all. But I'm just pointing it out to say that I do think Troutman's fine at 3K, and Dotson is the only guy in this game that I'm playing. And I do think you can roll out Washington's defense. I'm not, just because I don't need to, but their price is fine and their matchup is good.
yeah. I think both of these defenses are like They're just like no one's clicking them. Yeah, 3,900,
Yeah.
3,100. I
Yeah.
think they're fine. We've almost said it all. But if anyone's still, thanks for hanging around. But if anyone wants the answers to the test, you've come to the right place. Ori, where the people are going to fuck around and find out.
Oh, I get to go first. Okay. This is going to be really shocking because you guys know that I'm not a homer and I don't like to do homer things. I like to play it very even keel. It's DJ Moore. Fuck around and find out about an overcorrection. It's DJ Moore. Fire him up. Of course, I'm playing him with Justin Fields, but I'm also playing him in every single one of my lineups except for maybe one or two. He's a lock
Every
button.
single
Let's
one
go.
of your lineups.
Except
Yeah,
a
no,
couple.
except a couple. As the people know, I also am not a homer. It is Danny Dimes and Darren Waller. I mean, we've been excited to play them all year. Like, I don't know if Arizona is still the tight end funnel that it used to be back when Smiz was relevant. Says the guy, talking to an audience of 20 people. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Love you all. But yeah, man, like in the dome, like the Darren Waller, if the Giants want to have like any chance this year, with a banged up offensive line, patchwork already, receivers are practice squad caliber. Darren Waller is the only guy, like, and Saquon. Darren Waller is really the only like NFL like top tier or like close to top tier talent here. So now or never. I think at 1% owned, Waller I think is just a great play against a defense that is really not very good for Arizona.
I would like the people to be aware that I had two fuck around and find outs, and number two is Darren Waller. So I mean,
There we go.
y'all getting some alpha in here now. Easy and Ori are on Team Waller.
Yep. And if in my third, in like my second here would be Purdy, Debo, and Kittle. I'm definitely showing up with that in Puka Nakua. So yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by. Hit the like on your way out, subscribe, notification, etc. I am traveling next week. We got whiteout next week against Pumps, Iowa, whatever Huskers. No, that's Nebraska. Who I don't Hawkeyes.
Hawkeyes. Bucket.
Thanks.
Hawkeyes.
Turn it off. End the show. We will. Thanks for coming by. Later.
Bye.